Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. It is 2:30. Welcome to the 33rd Annual New York State Foster Care and Adoption Conference. This is session 2A, and our presenter today will be Chester, my wonderful coworker. Chester is our AFFCNY helpline coordinator. He has 25 years experience with older adoptive youth. He's also a parent, was a parent recruiter, and he also trains and he just runs support groups. My name is Trudy Kent. I am one of the director for Agape program in Hudson Valley. I will be your moderator today for the Zoom. Please, everyone, I put 3 things in the Zoom in the chat. So this training also has a training certificate that is available for this conference. So please have your Zoom name listed as the same name that appear on your certificate. So the link for the certificates, request for a certificate will be in the chat box. Also, I have 2 other links in the chat box. That would be our book table fundraiser and our conference workshop evaluation. And the last thing is that, I guess, the last thing will be that if anyone has any questions, please put it in the chat. Or if Chester wants anyone just to jump on and ask questions, he will let us know. So thank you, everyone. I will pass it over to Chester. Chester.
Thank you, Trudy.
Yes. I totally forgot to say I totally forgot to name the conference. Wouldn't take nothing for my journey now.
Yes. Speaking of that, it made me, when you're talking about the certificates, I'd love to see what's going to be on that certificate. What exactly we getting credit for here. But that's another story altogether.
Thank you, Chester. Okay.
Thank you, Trudy, very much. Thank you all for coming out. And a couple things I just wanted to get up front. I was curious. Well, first of all, we're gonna have some fun tonight. We're gonna have some fun in the next hour or so. There are gonna be some tears and some joy. We're gonna talk about some mamas and all kinds of stuff. And really the goal though, because I think it's very hopeful. And I think this falls in line with all of the 4 H's: the hurting, the helping, the hoping, the healing, all of it. So what I want to do first is find out who's in the audience. If you guys could just make a sound if you are former foster youth or former adoptees. Give me some kind of indication, maybe fingers, dancing fingers. Okay, we got a few of those. If you are a parent of any kind, give us one of those, thumbs up, fingers. Okay, the same participant. If you are a professional of any kind, give me some of that. Oh, okay, here we go. All right, very good. I'm assuming we have a little bit of everything, brand new foster parents, a little bit of everything, and that's good. As I was thinking about this workshop, first I'm going to, folks who know me here, a lot of this stuff is stuff that you've heard in one level or not. As I was thinking about this stuff, I wrote this beautiful piece that I worked to memorize, and I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. But what we are going to have is a multimedia conference extravaganza. I'm going to try to do more than one thing at once, which is never a good thing with me, but we're just going to start right in. Okay, I'm going to start to share my screen. Okay, and I want to do that, and I want to do that, because I do have something to kick off here from our favorite show. Okay. Well, let me just move this out of the way for a second. And here we go.
Choosing T-Mobile is like paying for this, but getting that. And so much more. Like more savings, so your family saves 20% versus the other guys. Get more with T-Mobile.
This has been the longest 3 weeks of my life.
He's gonna see us today, babe. I can feel it. We got through to him.
Mr. and Mrs. Pearson, you've been moved to another judge.
What?
Judge Bradley recused himself from your case. I'll show you where you'll be.
Okay, come on.
Recused? Is that a good or a bad thing?
And who do we have here?
We usually just call them 1, 2, and 3.
So well behaved.
Oh, give them time.
Okay. If you don't mind raising your right hand. Okay, one hand will do. To affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
We do.
Do you wish to adopt this child as your legally adopted son?
We do.
We do.
And what name shall this child be known?
Randall Kenneth Pearson.
You have done the hard work. You've chosen to love. I, on the other hand, have the pleasure of signing it into law. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Oh, bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hold on, I gotta stop the gun. Hold on, nobody move, nobody move. Oh, okay, haha, don't you dare. That's where a lot of adoption stories begin. You know, you have done the hard work. I always find that very amusing. This is problem number one. This is problem number one. This is what I call the kiss-off. And this is famous throughout the world of foster care and adoption. You have done the hard work. And what that really means is, see ya, see ya, wouldn't want to be ya, right? But yet still, that's the message that adoptive parents, foster parents get from everybody they meet. You know, it's full of all this joy and it's so incredible. I wish I had your heart. I wish I had your patience. I wish I had the you know, all the wherewithal to do what you do. I just, God bless you. God bless you. You know, I just want people to understand that what people are saying is really you out of your mind. And I don't know why you would do this. And I can't wait for the poop to hit the fan. And I tell you so, and on and on and on and on. And the only reason that's helpful is because that kind of grounds us a little bit, if we're aware of that. Because otherwise we're stuck with Rebecca and Jack's, you know, just, oh, we've done the hard work, so it's all gravy from here. And all of us know that that is not, that is not where the adoption story begins. I want to tell you a story, hopefully very quickly, but it's a different kind of adoption story. Bear with me. The year was 1958. The time, 2:21 in the afternoon. It was a bitter, cold January afternoon. I had just survived the most harrowing experience of my young life. I was born alive. It's mostly a blur now, but somewhere deep inside, I believe that I knew things were about to get wonky. I woke up in what must have seemed like a sea of unnamed loss, filled with apprehension, filled with, despite the soft touches of at least 2 women, mothers, who were struggling and preparing to bring me up in an unkind world. I felt uneasy, like I was born melancholy, a new baby made cautious by uncertainty. My tears dried quickly, and I soon recognized that tears alone didn't mean much at all here. I began the task of seeking safety, keeping myself fed, warm, and dry, and mostly by not being too demanding. Just 5 days after my arrival on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, born alive, being born alive was followed up by the sudden and total collapse of my postpartum life. It had been decided, for reasons that remain a mystery to me, that I would be taken in by my first mother's best friend. Nature and nurture evicted me from my first home. I was born, I was here, and I was placed with a stranger. I was born, I was here, and I was placed with a stranger. The first part I want you to think about is before I was taken in, I had already been given up. So before anybody had decided to do the good work, I had already been given up. And that process, I can only imagine because I didn't get the information. That process involved whatever was going on with my host, with my mother, with my first mother, right? So that's really where my adoption story began. And that's where everybody's adoption story begins. Not in those moments after we've done the hard work and managed to reach to finalization, but in the hard months, weeks, moments leading up to the decision that would put us in front of a judge, and hopefully with some folks willing to do the hard work. I don't have to tell you what that involves, although you think I might, simply because we pretend in adoption that nothing happened until we go to court, or until the match is made, or until we have some outcome. And you and I all know that a lot has happened, right? We like to think of sometimes, you know, when a family comes together nicely, or you find this perfect match, or you know, all of the magical things that we as fortune tellers think that we can predict and set up and look forward to, that all of that stuff is gone. I remember when I was becoming an adoptive parent, one of the workers said to my wife and I, we had two children that we were interested in. One was interested in us and we were interested in him. And he had a sister who wasn't interested in being placed with him again because she'd seen that game too many times. Get placed with him, he gets them kicked out. She didn't want to do that. She was living in a foster home. He was living in a group home. And so the worker said to me and my wife, you might have chosen him, but she is the prize, because it was decided somewhere down the road that she did indeed want to take a chance with us. You might have chosen him, but she was the prize. And I remember feeling, oh, like, bonus winner, this is a good one. Oh, we got a bonus one here, you know? And that's problematic. And I'm gonna leave that to sit there and think about it. So we're back to the idea that before anything in terms of our outcomes has happened, a lot has already transpired in the life of this infant or this child, right? So one of the key things that we have to, in order to stop selling people the bill of goods, we have to bring it more to the forefront that adoption is a loss-driven experience. And by the way, I did want to say, I can't see you guys. So if anybody has anything or they want to interject, please feel free to go ahead. Trudy, if there's a hand up or whatever, you can feel free to call them. I don't mind the interruption, that's not a problem. But adoption is a loss-driven experience. All lose some lose all. Adoption is a loss-driven. It's driven by loss. And that's for everybody in the triangle. That's for everybody. That's what brings us to the table. And that's not a good thing or a bad thing. That's just a thing. It's just a fact. Now, are there exceptions to that rule? I'm sure there must be, because there always are. But the reality is, for most of us, the biggest thing that's already happened. You know, before I was taken in, before I was chosen, before I was picked, I was what I like to think, I don't like to think of it, but I've always thought of it as dumped, simply because I had no better explanation. I don't know that that's the fact. I don't know that she wasn't kicking and screaming, and I don't know any of that. But what it feels like when I don't have an explanation is that I was dumped. Now, let's sit on that for a second. I want to take another look at our favorite family. And this, I got to tell you, and this speaks volumes about my own psychological makeup. This is probably my favorite moment in this entire show. And there are lots and lots of favorite moments in this show for me. I love this show.
Trista, are you showing a clip?
Oh, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh. Thank you, Trudy. I told you, they said he couldn't be taught, and they may be right, but I have to go back to my sharing, I think, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Share screen.
I told you it was going to be multifaceted. I didn't say I was going to have all of the facets. All right.
I am thankful for my family.
It's Thanksgiving.
I am thankful that everyone's safe. And there is no one in the whole world I'd rather be too hot or too cold with.
Grandma always says the same thing.
Yeah, she does, doesn't she?
Is everything all right, baby? You girls should go upstairs and play in Tessa's room for a little while.
What? Come on.
Why is there a photo of me in a letter that you sent to William's apartment?
Randall,
No, you know what? Don't speak, please. Don't just. I went to William's apartment to get his old Thanksgiving tapes. I was about to go and I saw this envelope. I said, I know that handwriting. That's my mother's handwriting, but how could that be? It doesn't make sense, right? So, dear William, I'm sorry I had to leave in such a hurry, but it was wonderful to see you looking so well after all these years. After all these years.
Randall, you have to understand.
Understand what? That you knew my father? That you kept him from me my entire life?
Everything that I
Just
think.
stop! Please stop. I can't even look at you. All the times I asked you about my family, and if I hadn't found him on my own,
Wait. Just wait a second. Please,
I just
babe.
gotta get some time alone. Excuse me.
Hey. Hey, guys. Sorry I'm so late. I have an announcement. I've decided to have gastric bypass surgery.
Your family's amazing.
Mom,
Yeah, baby.
I changed my mind. I want to have Thanksgiving when I grow up.
You do?
Yeah. I know how I want it to be. Like tonight. I want every Thanksgiving to be like this for the rest of my life.
That's best case scenario. That's the best case scenario because we know from watching the show, and I know we're all fans, that they love each other like crazy. All of those people. All of those people. But that's what happens when we sell people a bill of goods in the beginning. And we as an industry, we as professionals, and we as people who work with people who come to us to get their dreams fulfilled or whatever. We sell them this bill of goods that you've done the hard work. Because the question is, how do we get from we love each other crazy to the Thanksgiving table flip? You know, and the way that we get there is we pretend like nothing happened in between. And that's the beauty of television. And that's the beauty of this show, because we get to see a whole life lived. Nothing happened between doing the hard work and sitting around having Thanksgiving. Nothing happened. That's not even a part of the show. Most of it, I mean, they highlight little moments, you know, but that's how we prepare people in this foster care and adoption world that we live with. You know, as professionals, we're in their lives 9 to 5. We're in their lives 6 to 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, maybe, right? We're not thinking about 10 years from now. We're not thinking about when they're sitting there with their children. You know, we'd be overwhelmed. We wouldn't be incapacitated. We wouldn't be able to move forward, right? Of course we're not. But there's a price that's paid when we don't equip the people who we expect and who claim to be the ones that are going to be there in 10 to 15 years, when we don't prepare them for the inevitable. And the worst part about it for me is the preparation is the truth. We let people go through this whole process and come out and get children. And we know in many cases, they're going to lie to them for years and years and years and years and years. We know that. We've seen it. We do it. We ignore it. And at some point we say, well, that's it. What do you expect? That's what we do as a system. That's what we do as a system. We need to get people back to that point where they understand that the adoption day was not the beginning of their journey. That was not the beginning of that child's journey. There are things that happened that we cannot protect them from. Because that's the banner we wave when we choose to not bring up the difficult stuff. I'm not going to talk about it because I'm going to protect them. They're not ready for this. Let's take a moment, because I know the stuff seems kind of murky, but just think about it for a moment. I wanted to pull out something that talk about stream of consciousness. I wrote this in 2003. I don't even remember where I was in terms of the fog. The fog was lifting, liftish. But I just want to give you a little taste of it. And also, it's bad poetry. I'm sorry, I was a bad poet, and I'm still a bad poet. But mother's love, I called it. I can see her downcast face, eyes swollen with old tears. It's a tender, plump face that my baby girl shares. Really? Okay. Those tears leave me empty, for I can no longer trust my eyes. My mother weeps with worry that my love will vanish, yet it has no place to go. She who mothered me owns my love. She covets it and is jealous that it has limit. She dared not tempt me with the knowledge of another mother. As her fear, the curse grew stronger. Years came and anguish turned to that dull, constant ache in the pit of my belly. Fully grown and strong in the world, My mother's fear traps us both. Love is truth exposed. Through it all, no love is unconditional. Better the bitter memory of a truth exposed than the constant, everlasting ache of fear. Another piece of this soliloquy I was planning to deliver today was, did my first mother weep real tears as she handed her baby over to her friend? Again, this is best case scenario, right? Right from the hospital. Did this exchange ever mark my second mother with the sign of the interloper? Was I already prejudiced against this gentle spirit? The stranger took me to her heart, feeding my body, providing a home and family story that I would incorporate into my understanding of the rest of the world. I don't exactly know when I first became ashamed of my failings as a new human. I can't pinpoint a singular moment, yet shame and fear became my first playmate. When do I start my adoption story? Where do I start my adoption story? There would be no legal finalization, no gotcha day celebrations at Applebee's, no home study, no foster care placement, no social services, no system involvement at all. In fact, as far as the world was concerned, nothing much of import transpired that day. Yet I was relinquished, abandoned, dumped, rehomed, discarded, a cast off. All of that happened before I was taken in. Any thoughts? Okay. Do you have a slide? Yes, go ahead, Katie.
I'm so sorry that you were part of the generation where we weren't encouraged to have open conversations about how we got there and how you came into the family and where it was discouraged as if it would somehow be painful instead of acknowledging your pain and not having the information. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Katie. But really what I want you to hear is that I'm not mad at anybody. I'm not mad at either of my mothers. I'm not mad. I mean, that was an ideal situation. That's what we strive for in child welfare. I didn't go to kin, but I went to the next best thing. I went to my mother's best friend. She was involved in my life for the first 8 years at least. And then she disappeared, you know. I mean, I'm not mad. I'm not angry at anybody. I'm not sad about it. It's just a fact. And that's where I think we need to get ourselves as adults, because it's hard to hear, right? It's hard to hear, especially when it's about someone that you care about, you know, but we need to hear it. We need to be able to hear it as parents and as professionals. We need to help these folks coming through to be strong enough to hear it and to be willing to hear it, because that's the only way it gets to be just another fact. You want to adopt? It's not your heart that we need to see. It's where you hurt and what you do with that hurt. Because one thing we know for sure in foster care and adoption is you will be hurt. Because it's a loss-driven experience. It's unavoidable. We can delay it, we can deny it, but we can't escape it. We can push the offenders away. We can 10-day notice them. But, you know, like Pat is fond of saying, whatever we feel in their presence, they didn't bring it. They didn't put it there. It's there already. It's there already. And that's okay. What's not okay is to pretend that we don't have to acknowledge it. Because we may, as the adults, we may have the ability to push it aside and I'm just not dealing with it. Our kids can't. Our kids can't. And really, we can't either as adults. We can't either. One of the things that I'm fond of saying is that all of it, no matter how tragic, no matter how sad, no matter how heartbreaking, no matter how gut-wrenching, all of it is just what happened. Now, I'm not saying it's unimportant, and I'm definitely not saying it's insignificant or inconsequential. It definitely is. It's going to affect us for the rest of our lives. And some in different ways than others. That's the beauty of individuals. We could all be watching the same movie, but we're not going to be experiencing it in the same way. I like to think that salvation lies in us helping our families to help their children and themselves and their spouses and anybody else they're in relationship with to accept whatever's true, whatever their truth is that they're standing in that moment. And it might be, I'm heartbroken to think of all these kids who are out there who don't have loving families, because my family was so incredibly loving. And I didn't want that experience for all those kids. If that's the truth you're standing in, if that's the truth you're standing in, then help other people see that and see how your truth might be intermingling with somebody else's, but it's not the same truth. It's just two truths standing in a similar space. Adoptees who have always known, and this is some research, I didn't have a whole lot of research here, but adoptees, this is according to a recent study, adoptees who have always known, the known thing, report fewer identity issues. I believe it's the lying that shakes our world. And getting back to that Randall piece, and it's really so powerful for me because it needs to happen for all of us, and much, 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 much sooner than our adulthood. We need to have those rageful things. Why did you take me in the first place? All that stuff that rips us to shred as parents, adoptive, foster, whatever. All of those things that rip us to shreds. We need to open our arms and our tear ducts if necessary, and allow that to wash over us. Allow us to stand in each other's truth in the same space and just be, like Brene Brown's empathy thing. We don't want to have sympathy. I mean, sympathy is a good thing too, but sympathy is just about bringing a sandwich. And sandwiches are good, but sometimes you just want somebody to stand there or to sit there at the lunch table with you in whatever's happening. Any thoughts? I'm just going to keep on going, but
I was going to say Chester.
Yes.
Yeah, Trudy.
Oh no, so Chester, so somebody put in the comment that putting the truth aside or ignoring it doesn't make the truth untrue.
Right. That's very true. That's true. I don't know that I need to say anything beyond that. That is 100% true. Putting it aside, ignoring it, pretending it's not happening, doesn't make it any less true. Although, if it's a truth we don't want to face, that could be a real enticing thing to do. And sometimes when you look for excuses like, you have any questions? And there are no questions, then we move on. Whew, glad I got that over with. We have to encourage, we as professionals, we have to encourage these folks coming through to open themselves up to it. Now, in America, we're all about excesses here. And one of the things that happens is you tell folks to help the kids explore their stuff, and all of a sudden it's our stuff. And we are taking over their grief. And I want you to talk about it. It had to be off. I know it was off. It feels off. We do that. Don't do that. What I'm talking about is being willing, if the moment arises and your child wants to share something, anything with you, be open to it. You don't have to fix it. We're going back to The problem is it already happened before I met you. You cannot protect me from it. You can't. Before I was chosen, I was dumped. That's always going to be the truth. Always, no matter how, no matter how, what spin you put on it. Anybody else?
I was going to say, Chester, it sounds like we were talking about the radical acceptance.
Yes.
And just that accepting of everything without trying to change it. And, as a birth parent myself, learning and accepting the fact that what I did, even though I believed it was the right choice for the wrong reasons, but who I trusted and what was happening, I believed it. And it might have been the best choice, and I might have thought I was doing the best thing in the whole entire world. But in reality, it hurt my son. Me relinquishing him, whatever reasons, still hurt him. And I have to accept that and be able to say, like, yes, this is something that I did. And it doesn't make me, it's just accepting that, because then I can hear him talk about that pain, and I'm not defensive, and I'm not explaining to him, and I'm not trying to make him understand. No, yes, it hurt you. Now I can hear the hurt. And that is where the healing is in. And we have these conversations all the time, constantly.
Yeah. And that's the best medicine right there. That's the best medicine right there.
And radical acceptance also involves that a parent's truth, either adoptive parent or birth parent, is not the child's truth. And parents have to be willing not to put not to transpose their truth onto their child. So Chester, don't be alarmed that I'm the one who put it in chat. I know you said you can't see things about putting truth aside. It doesn't make the truth untrue.
Okay. That makes sense.
So pretending that it's not there doesn't actually take it away from the child.
Absolutely.
Right? It doesn't take it away from the child.
Right.
And the child is going to have the complicated feelings about the birth parent, about the adoptive parent, about the foster parent, that,
Yes.
And I think that starting the conversation early and doing the hard work, which involves way more than just, opening your heart to the love. Doing the hard work has to start from the get-go.
Yes. And doing the hard work, the real hard work, is not about, because that whole idea of pushing it aside and hiding it is usually not about protecting the child. I mean, that's what we say. It's about protecting us. It's about the stuff that we're afraid to feel, to think, to even be associated with. That's what it's about. And doing the hard work of love, and we all know it because we all love people, there's nothing you wouldn't do. That doesn't mean you like it. That doesn't mean you want to. But you do it, why? Because you love that person. And that's what love requires, right? If you think about Fight Club, we all know what was the first rule of Fight Club. Don't talk about Fight Club. In Adoption Club, the first rule of adoption and foster care should be always talk about adoption and foster care. Secrecy breeds contempt. Secrecy breeds contempt. If I have to be ashamed, if I have to be quiet about it, not mention it, not express it, I'm going to be ashamed of it because it's shameful. Secrecy breeds contempt. I like this. I like the candle thing there, but adoption, the lie that ignites the fire, right? Family is the kindling. Love is never striking the match. Love is controlling the burn, right? Sometimes you gotta let it burn a little bit because it kind of works against the fire, and that's probably a little more metaphysical. Let's take a moment. I know time is fleeting already. So I want to, if folks want to have more of a dialogue about it, I will take these slides down and we can do that. You know what I'm going to do though? I happen to like this one. Just because you feel the need to cry about it doesn't give you the right to lie about it. And I think that's a good rule of thumb. Birth history is a birthright, and that's simply about recognizing that people are individuals, and there are things about my child or my cousin or my wife or husband or another that I don't know, because that's not been my journey. But I want to know about it to the extent that they're willing to share it, because it's a part of who they are. That's really paying homage to who they are. Another one of those, adoption is just a circumstance, like being a twin. It's all the extra bleep. That's the problem. We need to get to a place where our story is just our story. Our story is just our story.
Hey, Chester.
Yes, please.
We're not seeing any slides. We
Oh.
see you.
Oh, man, I'm really enjoying the slides.
Well, anyway, you're doing a great job of describing them to us and reading them to us, but I just wanted you to know we can't see them.
Wow, I was having such a blast. I thought I had this under control.
Almost.
So you ever seen any of the slides?
No, Chester. Chester, before you start the slide, do you want to answer a question?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Can you see that slide that's up there just now? No.
No.
No, there's no slide.
No, after This Is Us, we stopped seeing anything.
Yeah. But you did the videos great, and that's the hardest part.
It's that multimedia thing. It's a killer.
It's a challenge.
Go ahead, Trudy. I'm sorry.
So Donna asks, what about kids talking to classmates, other children about their story? Do we let that go or try to guide them to adults?
I like to say that there's no hard and fast rules. Obviously, you are the grown-up in the situation, and hopefully you are an invested grown-up who understands that anything that's helpful for your child's development, whether that's talking about it with friends or putting a blimp up or trying to learn how to use PowerPoint, you want to support that. Obviously, you should always make sure, or as best you can, that you're talking to, you're getting the reaction you want, and that you're not doing something that's counterproductive for you. And you're not doing it for the wrong reason. I mean, sometimes we do stuff, we're so desperate to fit in and to feel like we have a place that we do all kinds of things that are really not good for us. But I'm not one of those people saying we need to take the parents out of parenting. I'm just saying we need to wake the parents up and not allow them to skate on what has to be the truth. And I'm not even talking about, parenting police, that we need to have, regulation change. We just need to, with a group of people that come forward to us as professionals and raise their hand up and say, yes, I understand all the challenges that this child's going to have, but I still have enough love in my heart and enough blah, 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 to go forward and provide them with a better home, that we have to hold them to a higher standard. And we have to do that because the children that we're placing with them need it of us. Yes.
There's specifically the Wise Up program by Case that helps our children navigate how the autonomy that they take over their story. If someone's interested.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of the coalition. There's somebody out there in this group that knows what you need. That's why I'm not one of those people that says, well, what you should do is you should find out what you need. And I know that if you call Katie or Carol or Claudia or me or one of us, somebody's going to put you in touch with what you need. But you got to be willing to hear it. Anyone else? Yes, Pamela? You're muted, though.
Hey, Chester. I'm Pam. I'm a therapist and an adult adoptee, and I'm joining you from Las Vegas today. Hey, I just want to say that I believe that adoptees sharing their truth with peers is a true effort at being authentic, and we should encourage it and then have conversations about how did it go, how did they respond, did you get what you needed in that response, or did that response fall short, and then work to help the child receive the response that they need. Versus discouraging them from telling the story. Absolutely believe it's an attempt at being authentic, being real with friends.
Yeah. And I should have pointed out in the beginning, I am not a therapist. I am clearly not a therapist.
I like what you're saying.
So yes, and that's excellent. That proves my point right there. And I know as the older I get, the more I realize that there is so much information out there. It's silly for me to try to pretend like I have.
Pat,
Mm-hmm.
you have your hands raised?
Yeah. Thank you. Katie had mentioned a little bit earlier that that in your generation when you came up, this is what people did. But we wanted a post-adoption program here, and I'm sure the other post-adoption programs get this every now and then as well. We have adoptive parents that call us who have not told their children they were even adopted. So it's still happening today.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just curious what you would advise.
Me? I would advise you snap out of it. I mean, I would show them the Randall clip. You want to be a liar today, or you want to be a liar in 10 years? No matter how you slice it, you're going to be a liar. And that's just unnecessary. It's just unnecessary. You are setting yourself up for a fall that you can't do anything about, because the bottom line is you're a liar when it comes to this. I see there are a couple of hands up. Y'all jump in there, whoever you are.
I was going to say real quick, I just put in chat a link to Amanda Badden's research on when to tell an adoptee, and the older an adopted person is told that they're adopted, the more harm that goes towards them. So that link is in there to the article, and then the article has a link to the actual research paper if anybody's interested in that.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Claudia. Marisol? You're muted. You're still muted. I can't hear you.
Oh, that's what happened. I stopped sharing my screen. That's what my issue is.
Do you want to type it in the chat? Or can you? Okay. Okay. Does anybody else want to ask a question?
Aha! I know you can see my slides now. Is that
Yes,
right?
we can. Yes, we can, Chester. Let's see it.
Okay, good. I do have a couple more that I just like, and one of them is this one. Santa Claus, Tooth Fairy, Easter Bunny, adoption. Which lie do mothers wish they could take to their graves? Tell the truth before it's too late. And why is that so hot button for me? Because my mother, my second mother, I should clarify, said to me when she was forced to admit that I was not born to her. She said to me, I wish that I had gone to my grave before you knew that. And I cannot tell you how angry that made me. I absolutely, positively adored my mother, my second mother. And to hear her say, I wish that I had gone to my grave before you knew, that was like her punching me in the face. Because I knew I was 100%, and I know the whole walk in your shoes and all that, I get it. My reaction was not a grown man hearing this. My reaction was a frightened little boy who understood that his best shot was to be quiet, was to be small, was to just go unnoticed. That she was actually contemplating going to her grave before I had any opportunity to discuss this with anyone. That just devastated me. I adored, and I still adore my mother. I put her so high on a pedestal that I'm sure her nose was bleeding on the regular. And the more I learn about her, the more human she becomes, the more it helps me to understand what hell she must have lived in. What an absolute hell she lived in. And I don't know what that was about. There was infertility. We're finding out that there might have been a husband that I didn't know anything about. All kinds of things. Snap out of it. Get clear on what that's about, because it's not about your child. It's not about protecting them. It's not about keeping them safe. It's not about blah, blah, blah. It's about you. And you need to figure out what that's about, so you're not sitting at the table at Thanksgiving feeling real full of yourself and Randall goes off on you because he loves you so much that he wants to kill you because you did something so unlike yourself. Nothing to see here. This is a mental health moment. This is back to the commercial. Stop seeking absolution in the eyes of babies not born to you. Do your own work first. Guess who that is? This is my second mother. And I wrote this little thing. Dear Mama, adoption comes strings forever attached. To whom and to what came first? And I absolutely adore this woman. She was 16 here. Can you believe that? And I just want to show you some of the family. I did reunite with my family about 9 years ago. And that's back to adoption is, there's no adoption without loss. If you don't remember anything else, remember that. Me and baby brother. I think I have one with my sister too. This is my best friend, Karen. She's so cool, I married her. And oh, I didn't put my sister up here. Okay, well, there you have it. There was so much that I wanted to cover. I had 15 pages of notes, which is why I stopped writing them, because I knew there was just no way I was going to get to it all. The key things I want folks to take away from this is that the thing that we want most, we cannot do as parents and as professionals. We can't undo whatever's been done. We can't. And we're spinning out. Oh, there's a raised hand. Go ahead, Annette.
You can continue. I can wait.
Oh, okay. We like to do that silver lining stuff. And I mean, we're human beings. We don't want to go home thinking, oh my God, this is terrible, terrible, terrible. I think that, but that's where the 4-H's are. Some of the healing has to come through accepting and understanding that it's only through hurting with them can we help them. And we don't have to bear their pain, obviously, but we have to make room for it so that they can make room for it. So they don't have to keep it bottled up in them for the rest of their days. Go ahead, Annette. I'll never stop.
I've actually lost count, but I was counting how many times you have stressed the fact that you adored your mother.
Absolutely.
But that's also something that from my lived experience is put upon many adopted people, was definitively put upon me to always preface what I'm about to say with, and I loved my parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people need to realize that adopted people are entirely capable of loving more than one parent, more than one set of parents, just as parents are entirely capable of loving more than one child.
Yep.
When parents divorce or separate and get remarried or, have different significant others, it's actually expected in many cases that the child assimilate and just love and accept this new step parent.
Yep.
And the same should be true for adopted people. And I'm not saying that you are prefacing it for that reason, Chester. I'm just saying that I see it and hear it so much, and I do it so much myself, that that's something that I actually do pay attention to when adopted people speak.
Yeah.
And that's something that for any adopted parents in this audience right now, and for people who even work with adopted parents should stop their child from saying that, from having to say, I love you, but, right? I know you love me. You don't have to tell me that you love me every single time we're going to talk about your adoption or your birth parent. Just talk about it without prefacing with that.
And Annette, let me tell you, I can't tell you how much of it is just, it was a survival thing. I had to be connected to her or I would die. And I was serious about that in the beginning, that this stuff was settled in my chest early. I learned that the way that I stay alive was to be small.
Was to be small and to not talk about your feelings and to internalize it all and to do whatever, to become a chameleon and blend in and act this way and don't act that way, but do this and don't do that. And it is entirely survival mechanism. And it's a survival mechanism that many adopted people take with them into their adulthood and
Another
never
question.
actually come to terms with it. They can't actually identify it and label it as you do and say, and I did this and I do that.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And that's where what Katie says comes into play. That's where the parents from our generation did one thing and the parents now
Yeah.
need to learn and do better.
Yeah.
When you know more, you do more.
Right. And we'll all be better for it. You know, and that's the hard work, because that's not always easy. That's going that extra mile and helping your child understand that they don't have to be special. They don't have to be this, that, or the other thing. My brother used to say, I'm gonna love you if you never get no bigger. And he did use an ethnic slur in there, but I won't do that for you. But you're always gonna be even if you never get bigger. You know, and what that meant, what I heard from that was that it don't matter. It doesn't matter if I'm good, not good, funny, not funny, you know. And the other piece, I know we're coming close. The other piece of it for me is this was just through the blinders of my eyes. That's all it was. And this was just a small fraction. I didn't even tell you about, I didn't give you the story. I just gave you what I imagine my infancy was like. You know, I mean, obviously, who knows? But I'm just looking at my behavior now as a man over the last 64 years. You know, there's a piece that I wrote actually for another site, highlighting the fact that I'm 64 years old and I never had my own place. I moved from my mother's house to my girlfriend's house, to my wife's house, back to my mother's house, back to the girlfriend's house, back to the second wife's house. And now I'm living in the house with my second wife. And that, that's just a fact that has transpired. But how much of that plays into the idea that for the first 5 days of my life, because I was handed over 5 days at 5 days old, how much of the first 5 days of my life did I feel homeless? That I felt that it wasn't safe for me to need too much. And who knows? I'm just telling, this is just what I'm feeling. I wish I could say that you do all these things, follow those, check the right boxes, push the buttons, and your child's gonna be happy, it's gonna be great. No, I don't believe that. All of us have a price to pay for our journey. There's tax due. There's stuff that we have to deal with because we're being bended and molded by the weights that we carry, and that's going to affect the way we walk. If you have a little pebble in your shoe, no matter how little it is, eventually you're going to deal with that pebble. You're going to deal with it one way or the other. Raised hand.
Claudia, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. I was going to say, I think the other thing too is it's not just one pebble and it comes back, right? So it's like, it's not a one and done. Like, I think people think like, you get to a certain point with something with like this internal healing work and you got it, you're done. It's like grief. Oh, you're done. No, it can come back and it will come back. Things change, something happens, stuff adjusts, and all of a sudden you're like, ooh, oh, that hurts again. Why is that hurt? And you have to take it out and play with it and look at it and repackage it and put it back in again. But it's never over. Like there's not a mecca of when there's healing, right? So it's constant, it's daily, it's sloppy. It's not nearly what they've told us life is going to be like.
Yep.
Right? You're either okay or you're not okay. Most of us are not okay. And we just got to keep on doing this work all the time. So.
And that's okay.
And that is that's how you are just okay. You don't get okay, you just are okay. There, that's my Buddha for the day.
Indeed.
Chester, thank you so much. Claudia, Chester, we have Marisol who was unable to speak due to her mic. So she has in the chat. In our program, we had a family who didn't want to tell the children they were being adopted. We didn't proceed with the adoption until the adoptive parents had that conversation with the children. With assistance with the children's therapist, they were later adopted.
Okay. See, there are lots of smart people out there. You can find the people you need. You just have to be willing to ask the right question. Somebody was telling a story about a child who wanted to know who they were. And they went and got a DNA test. I think that's just brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. Because all you're doing is supplying information. You know, so many times our kids, they just want to know. They just tell me something. You know, don't leave it a vacuum. You know, and if there's information you can find, God say, give me information. You can handle it. You're grown up. You pay taxes. You got a job, nice car. You know, you can do it. It might hurt, feel weird, awkward. Not your mama's parenting experience. You could do it. So the big takeaway, before I was chosen, I was unchosen. Think about that as you work with the people you work with. You're not fixing that. So don't look to fix, you know, look to problem solve, you know, don't look to fix. And that.
Aren't you glad I came to your workshop,
I
Chester?
love it. You just, because you were like, man, you're like that angel on my shoulder. And I always leave stuff out because I'm just like a stream of consciousness kind of dude. And Annette is always the one that says, by the way, I forgot to mention.
And it's not, as Claudia said before, right? It's not a one and done conversation either. And the verbiage around, like Chester says that he felt he was dumped, right? This positive adoption language is not always positive for the adopted person. So your mother loved you so much that she wanted you to have a better life. Not always very positive for the adopted person, because it could teach the adopted person that love means giving someone up.
Yep.
You know, you were chosen. Well, was there a lineup? Was there a store? You know, so that kind of language also makes a very big difference, which goes back to what you said throughout your entire wonderful, by the way, Chester presentation, what Claudia said as well. None of it is one and done. My parents back in 1968, the adoption could not be finalized until they told me that I was adopted. So they said, you were adopted. An agency worker came in and said, what were you? I said, I was adopted. And that was it. They never explained what adoption was until I was now 4 years old. And one of the neighborhood kids said to me, well, like, your own mother didn't even want you. So what do you expect from you? And I was like, what are you talking about? And they were like, well, you were adopted. And I was like, well, yeah, I know. But like, I didn't know what it meant.
Right.
So the agency, my parents fulfilled the agency obligation.
Check the box.
But the agency never came back to follow up to make sure that that little 2-year-old child who said, I'm adopted, actually understood what that meant.
Yep. Yep.
And that is so key, that there be follow-up with families.
The hard work.
The hard work.
It's the hard work. And we can do it in little ways. As professionals, we can do it. Just I used to tell people, just imagine it was somebody you loved. Imagine it was your sister's kid. You know, whatever, what would you tell your sister's kid? Tell them, you know. Anything else? Well, this was fun. I enjoyed it. I hope nobody was following the syllabus, because there wasn't one. Pat.
How can people, you got a lot of wisdom in those memes that you put on the slides. How can people, if they want to get their hands on a meme or two, how can they get them? Email you, or, you know?
Yes, it's on my Instagram. It's in my Facebook.
So the communications team is going to ask you for your slides so that we can actually put them into the event itself within the network, so people can access it there as well.
That'll be easier.
That would be much easier.
Yeah.
You can send them. You can send them to Shemin or Claudia. I'm out.
Now I'm writing those things all the time. So some of them might have been posted or might not have been. Some of them were written a long time ago. Some of them I did in the last few days. I'm constantly doing that. And I have oodles and oodles. Anybody want to read my blogs? No, you don't want to do that. But I got a ton of stuff, because that was the way I lived, in a notebook, you know, and on television. I didn't have any life outside of that. It was too dangerous. Life was good. And television, I knew who dad was and what dad was going to do, and mom, and life was good. You know, I live that TV life now. I live in the suburbs with my wife. And I have neighbors that I've known for 20 years and never seen the inside of my house, but we wave at each other and we talk about our children, and it's a beautiful life, just like on television. You know?
Thank you, Chester. Amy, you have your hands raised?
Yes, hi. It takes me a while. I've been absorbing and listening and hearing all this wonderful content, and thank you so much. I have a couple of thoughts slash questions. Thought number one, there's a lot of talk of chosenness in relationship to that language of we chose you for the adoptee, and I have a real visceral reaction to that. I'm a post-adoption therapist. Having worked with birth mothers making adoption plans, from my perspective, it's, you know, telling a child that they were chosen puts a lot of pressure on an adopted child. In fact, it's here anyway at Spence Chapin, it's the birth parents who choose the adoptive family, not the family choosing the child. I just wanted your thoughts on that. And also, I just see so much defensiveness from adoptive parents on the internet reacting to adoptees talking about their pain. And I wanted to know what we can do to help folks get past their defenses so they can hear the pain of the adoptee.
You know what the first thing comes to mind for me? And I want you to take this in the right way. Mind your business. I mean, why do we got to fix it? If it's a client, you know, you want to steer them on the right way. I'm not a therapist. If you want to, you know, do whatever therapists do. But beyond that, I mean, people are interacting, and online is online. I mean, you know, and in terms of chosen, not chosen, the only thing I'm talking about is when folks come into us and we call ourselves preparing them to be adopted, foster, etc. We need to really prepare them for the reality, not just the stuff that's going to make it easier to get them through to certification. We got to really prepare them to be of some use to the children that are going to come through their homes. And whether it's a week, 2 days, or 15 years, they should be treating every child, giving every child an example of what family life is supposed to be. And we got to help them remember that.
And you know, in terms of Amy's question, Chester, you already gave the answer. If somebody's going to be that way, they got to hurt that they're not looking at.
Yeah.
And they ought to start looking at it. Yeah. And maybe Amy can be instrumental in helping them start looking at it.
Yeah. There are a lot of smart people out there, emotionally and otherwise, you know, and here, I'm sure there are a lot of smart people in here. How do we believe minding our business will not lead to secrecy? Good point. That was me being a smart, but I just think sometimes sometimes we want to fix everything, you know, and we can't, But I'm glad Annette and I have had this discussion. Annette, I'm just putting your business on the street. She's a very active adoptive person for, you know, getting adoptee rights and on and on and on and on and on. And I'm so glad that she is, because that's the way stuff is going to change for me. Because if he left it to me, I wouldn't be out there marching. I wouldn't be out there speaking to Congress. I'll be sitting in the suburbs in my chair, waving at people that don't know me from Adam, and quite content with that. You know, everybody's different. Everybody's different. And I thank God that there are people who get pissed off and are willing to get on the picket line and go out there and do all that stuff. And I talk a lot, but that's what I do. That's all. So don't be looking for me to fix the world.
I think the way to get them, yeah, people have to listen to adopted people.
Yeah.
You have to elevate the voices of the adopted people. And there are plenty of resources out there. There are plenty of organizations out there where adopted people have the platform, where adopted adults, to be clear, have the platform. And listening to their voices and elevating their voices can only serve to help to better the future generations. Katie likes to call it the ripple effect.
Yeah.
So, you know, do some Google searches on adult adopted people.
Thank you.
And listen to their voices.
Yeah.
And point those parents in that direction.
And if you're a therapist, you want to help the adoptive parents listen to the adopted people, especially their own children.
Yeah. And there's so many smart people. They really are. It's really helpful. Sometimes we get bogged down by the things we can't do. There's so much we can do one-on-one. That really makes a difference. I got 2 more videos. I'm just kidding. I love that show. So it's always a pleasure when I get to play with it. Jerry, you got something? Or did you squish a bug and you were just showing us?
I was just sort of having a little pity party for myself because I feel like as a psychotherapist, as a foster alumni, and as an adoptive parent, I did all the things that you are talking about, what we, should do. Tons of reading and exploring and self-help and open adoption and appropriate boundaries with the birth family. And, you've heard my sob stories, Chester, that, I have a daughter that, still has a lot of trauma and a lot of pain and a lot of blaming of me. And it's just hard. I'm sort of hearing, like, listen to the adopted child. And I have listened, and I just, it just is so, it's so deep. And, maybe, I don't know, I'm just I'm thinking about, is there, what could I have done differently? What could I have done better? And, I'm sure there are things that I could have done better. But I have done a lot of good stuff, a lot of what you guys said, do this. And I was like, okay, I'm doing it.
I know. And the only thing I would ask you, and only because I know you a little bit in the way that we know each other, is, were you listening? Which adopted child were you listening to? Which adopted child were you talking to? Which adopted child did you, give so much grace to? Because there's 2 of them in this story. You only have 1 child, but there's 2 of them in this story. And I have no doubt that you did everything you said you did and do. I have no doubt at all. And that's why I go back to saying, I wish I could tell you it's going to go, everything's going to be better.
Just because you do the right thing doesn't mean you're going to get the results you want.
Yes.
As long as you did the right thing.
Yeah. It's its own reward. And you probably don't even know how many other people you've helped do the right thing. By your example and the people you talk to.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a bird in the room? Who's got a bird?
Chester.
Trudy.
All right. So Terry says, she has a comment. She said, for me, it comes down to the mysterious of being a human person. I'm a human person.
Mm-hmm.
There is a big limit to my understanding.
Yeah, I agree. Just when you think you got it figured out and you meet somebody new. That's why, one thing at a time, man. One thing at a time. I've been married to that lady over there for 30 some years. And I think I know her pretty well, but there are things that I know she has spared telling me because she loves me. And I appreciate that. I mean, it's complicated. You're dealing with people, right? You're dealing with emotions. There's no manual, as we like to say. There really isn't. And that's why we have to spend so much energy self-reflecting, because that's the only thing we can decide right now. I'm going to try something different. But I can't make you try something different if you're not ready to try something different. So heal thyself, or at least look at yourself, because that's where the power is. Everything else is a crapshoot.